Hello, Facebook. Welcome, everyone. We are currently live on Facebook. This is the third episode of the 7Gen live show. We got Michael on here. Mike, you all know him as Mike. We got Aaron Epps on here. Hi, Aaron.
Hi,
we
everybody.
also have Wheezy on here. So I'll give everyone a moment to introduce themselves in just a little bit. But how you doing today, Mike?
Good. Doing good. Busy week. It feels like nonstop. We're trying to get our house cleaned, and it's been slow goings, I would say. That's a nice way of saying it, but we're getting there. How about you?
Same thing. We've been cleaning house. My mom's in town, so everything has to be in order when she's here. We had a bit of a health scare with my unchi, so she's in the hospital right now. But hopefully she'll get to come home soon. And we've just been praying hard for her, but she's doing well. But aside from all that, we have some important discussion, things to talk about today. Aaron, I'm gonna go ahead and let you introduce yourself right now. Go ahead.
Sure, Halmadakiapi, Aaron Epps Amachiapi. I'm Aaron Epps and project manager for the Wolakota Buffalo Range. And so really happy to be on today to have the opportunity to talk a little bit about the project and the long-term vision for it. If you haven't heard, it's really exciting. So looking forward to digging into that a little bit more today. But yeah, thanks for the opportunity to talk about the project a little bit today.
We're glad you're here, Aaron. Wheezy, go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Wizipra. Good to meet everyone, or say greetings online. Greet everyone with a good heart, and definitely looking forward to discussing Wolakota today and the regenerative bison range, and talking a little bit about like why and how, and discussing like how projects like this are really the future, not only for us and our people, but for the whole world. So looking forward to it.
Awesome. So we've been hearing about the project for a while now, but we'd like to give everyone an update on where it stands at this moment. Aaron, do you want to give us an update on that?
Sure, yeah. So actually, maybe Wheezy, you could go ahead and tell a little bit more about the background of the story and kind of the big picture, and then I'll jump into the kind of on the ground what's going on right now, but just to set the stage a little bit.
For sure, yeah. So Wolakota is a 28,000 acre regenerative buffalo range, and it is located out to on Rosebud, out to what everyone knows as Mustang Meadows. And when it's fully stocked, it'll be 1,500 head that will run on an annual basis. We're leasing the land from Tribal Land Enterprise. Big shout out to TLE and the board of directors and the leadership over there for their continued support for the project, and really support for the vision. And one thing that I'd say that I think is really important is just kind of starting with the name, Wolakota, right? So Lakota means to be an ally, to be a friend, and Wo, whenever you add that into something, that makes it an action and a verb. So when you use the word Wolakota, what it means is living the Lakota way of life, and all of the duties, responsibilities, and privileges that come with that. So for us, being Buffalo people and our connection to the Tatanka Oyate, to the Buffalo Nation, we can't be Lakota if we don't have a connection to the buffalo, plain and simple. We can't be Lakota if we don't have connection to Shunko Oyate, to the Horse Nation, and to many of the other, Wamakashka Oyate that are out there. So for us, it really embodies that, and how we're approaching our work. And I also think that it's because that's the reason we've had so much success to date. Given where it started as just a dream and an idea, and where we're at now.
Awesome. Thanks for that. Yeah, this is such a cool project. Like, so super exciting, just to think about the scale or the scope of this thing, it's going to be huge, and that build out, it's going to be an incredible asset for Rosebud, but definitely for Indian country in general. Can you talk about like give us the history of Mustang a little bit? What's kind of the story behind that site and the history a little bit?
Aaron, you want that one, or you want to take it?
I can tell what I know about it. So it's definitely got a storied history back. I don't know exactly when it was established, but through I think 50s up through like the 90s, it was a wild Mustang ranch, thus the name Mustang Meadows. And so I think at one point there was 1,500 just wild Mustangs out there, and the property was actually owned by Sandra Day O'Connor, former Supreme Court justice. It was owned by her brother, and so you can tell just by looking at some of the structures out there, which have not aged super well, but you can tell that at one point those were probably the cream of the crop as far as the home out there and the barn. Really cool historic buildings. But then in the 90s, I believe it was, it became too much to maintain, and the owners sold it to the tribe. And so since that point, the tribe has been leasing it out primarily to cattle ranchers. And so this is an opportunity here to kind of reclaim that and get a local project going that's going to keep the revenues in the community. And also obviously be something that we can be really proud of as far as the environmental impact, social impact, and just an awesome project to bring some good news to Rosebud.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Appreciate the background. I would be a remiss host if I didn't go here. So some of the tougher questions, I had heard that there were buffalo down here recently, but that it was kind of a tough project, didn't really work out. What are you guys doing down there differently this time to make sure that everything kind of goes smooth with the buffalo project down on Mustang this time around?
For sure. So when we first started talking about this project, folks who are familiar with the land, folks who are familiar with ranching, and then experts in the buffalo field, the first thing that they talk about is fencing. You've got to have good fencing. And actually, the bulk of our infrastructure money and spending is all going into the fencing. And so that's the first thing that we've started with. So we have two phases on the fencing. The first phase is fencing off 8,500 acres this year. That's going to be complete, finished here at the end of the month. And then next year, we're going to finish fencing off the rest of the property. That's really, really important to make sure that we're looking out for the health, welfare, and safety of the buffalo. Also make sure that we're looking out for the safety of and being good neighbors to the other landowners around us and to the community. So that's the first thing that we're doing, is making sure that we got good fence. I've gone out and checked it, got pictures. It's top-notch stuff. I think also making sure that we have good partners in terms of helping and advising us on how to manage a project of this size. So we have some great technical assistance providers, like Wild Idea Buffalo. They're some of the best, in the business in terms of kind of humane harvesting. And, they're the guys that actually, pioneered the mobile harvest unit. So we're going out to where you can go out to the field to harvest animals. And then also from a, big ranch perspective, Turner Ranch Enterprises, Ted Turner has about 1.9 million acres, and he runs about between 50 and 60,000 buffalo. So they've been great technical assistance providers and kind of teaching us and showing us the ins and outs of what to do and not what to do. And then, of course, we got some really great local people who are experts on this. And they're just, so sharing with advice and recommendations. Sometimes it's really listening on what not to do. and just taking their word for it and following their advice. So I think that's the first thing, just making sure that we got good fencing, and then also listening to others and taking advice on how to do things correctly.
And to build on that just a little bit, the communication is so important, especially with the neighbors down there. And so that's an area where the folks at Tribal Land Enterprises have been really helpful in giving us the names and contact information for all the neighbors, because obviously what happened out there a couple of years ago left a bad taste in a lot of the neighbors. And so they hear buffalo and they just, that's what they assume a buffalo operation is. And so, we're coming in, like Weezy said, putting up a solid fence. That's step one. And then really opening up and establishing those lines of communication. Because I mean, to be honest, for decades, some of those people out there have had to maintain that fence all by themselves. Whereas usually, you've got a fence, neighbors kind of split duties. So a few people have just been, a few of the neighbors have just been really grateful to have that communication and to kind of be starting off on the right foot that way. So yeah, I just think communication is super important with a project like this.
Awesome. Hey, shouting out to everybody who's watching, or if you're just joining, I'm here with Aaron Epps and Weezy on Little Elk. We're talking about Wolakota, the new regenerative buffalo range going down in Mustang Meadows, 28,000 acre site down there, kind of by Spring Creek, Sandhills area. Awesome project. So if you're just joining, thank you. We actually already got a question. So Jenny Brave posted a question up. Thanks for the question, Jenny. But she was wondering, are there going to be opportunities for people to volunteer down there? Are you all looking for volunteers to come out and participate in the project in any way?
So the quick answer is heck yeah. One of the things that's really important is, there's no one that really owns buffalo. You can't own Tatanka Oyate. We have a relationship with them. And so, yeah, we got to go through the Washichu kind of processes, and, we got to do that. But at the end of the day, being true to who we are, it's about having a relationship and making sure that we have a strong relationship with the Tatanka Oyate. And they took care of us for a long time, and it's our time to take care of them. And when they're healthy, we'll be healthy, and when we're healthy, the Tatanka will be healthy. And so I say all that to say that, yeah, on paper and all this stuff, we own the herd and whatnot, but this is really not for any one person or any one individual. This is for our Oyate, for our people. And we're going to want volunteers. We're going to want people to come out and visit. We're going to create opportunities for kids and school children to go out. Obviously, a little bit different right now with COVID, so if anything that we do is going to be COVID compliant. But down the road, we want people. I was in a training last year in this around historical trauma and healing as a nation, and the guy was talking, and he said, we don't really have, as nation, we don't really have a relationship with the buffalo anymore, and so we need to. And he was talking about horse therapy and the importance of horse therapy. So we need to make sure that we at least have that relationship with the Shunko Oyate. And again, this is about creating that relationship with the Tatanka Oyate. And they have a role and purpose, and we have a role and purpose. And if we can, work with each other respectfully, in a way that's reciprocal, where we're each given to each other, that's the relationship. That's the relationship that Tonkashila put in place, and that was put in place when we had the Great Race, and the two-leggeds raced against the four-leggeds. And that doesn't mean that one group has dominance or dominion over the other. It just means that we need to treat each other like relatives. So yeah, we want volunteers. We're advertising for an assistant range manager position right now. As we get more resources, the hope is that we can have a whole group of interns, people who can come and be a part of training, and learn how to handle buffalo. Either is just to form that personal relationship, or maybe people want to start their own herds down the road. And that's something we definitely want and envision, is more individuals and families by being able to have some of their own animals that they help raise. And so we want to do that. And obviously we got to be safe about it. You know, we can't, you see some of those videos on Facebook and stuff where, you know, people are getting lifted up and their clothes get torn off of buffalo and whatnot. Got to be safe, got to have that respect, but we want to do all that in a really good way. And, you know, the last point I'll say before I stop talking is, as Lakota, we have to have a relationship. Every single one of us individuals has to have a relationship with buffalo, and it's who we are. It's in our DNA, and so, you know, part of this is just getting back to who we are. So we want that, and we're going to need that.
Awesome. I appreciate it. I'm looking over there too, as you know, kind of like a spin-off to relationship building, and it looks like Hankashi Jillian has a really special relationship with flies over there. She's swatting away like crazy.
They're just loving my hairspray.
Awesome.
But real quick, Weezy, you just spoke on the health and safety of the buffalo. Now, there they go again. But as we've seen on Facebook, I think just within the past 24 hours, there's been some major concern about the health and safety of some of the buffalo out in Antelope. And there's also been some rumors that Redco owns those buffalo. I did see a statement come out on the Sicangu CDC Facebook page this morning addressing that issue, but I just want to hear from you personally on your response to that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, those are not our animals. They do not belong to us. We have no animals at the moment. We're expecting to receive our first two kind of groups of buffalo in October, and those will be coming from the Department of Interior, National Park Service. You know, but we have donated hay to the herd that, you know, everyone's talking about, and so we've, you know, we're there to assist and help in any way we can. Obviously doing everything in a respectful way. So we donated some hay, but those are not our animals.
Cool. Thanks for the clarification. We got actually another question here. Somebody wanted to know, could you speak a little bit on the job position that you have open? There is an assistant range manager position open, I believe, closing today. They want to know who or what is the ideal candidate. Who are you guys looking for to put in applications for that?
Go ahead, Aaron. You want to take that one? I've talked a lot.
Sure, yeah. So I'll just take one step back quick and just mention Jimmy Doyle, who's our lead manager out there. And, you know, Jimmy has lived in Lakeview for a while and has a little ranching operation of his own. So member of the community, and he's kind of leading the charge right now out there. And so part of why we haven't necessarily made the call out for volunteers yet, back to Jen's question, is we're really kind of want to make sure we got all of our ducks in a row before we start going off in too many different directions. So that's definitely something we're going to be working on in the future. And so one of those ducks that we want to put in the row is hiring this assistant manager. And so really an exciting position. It's, I mean, once in a generation that you get an opportunity like this to come in at the ground floor of something like this that's gonna be around. You know, name of the show is 7 Gen Live. This is a project that's going to have an impact for 7 generations, and this person is going to be integral in getting that up and running. And so the assistant manager would be housing is provided on site out at Mustang Meadows, and they would be the hands-on everyday maintenance, checking on the animals, keeping logs of grazing and of rotational patterns, making sure all the equipment and fences maintained. So definitely an outdoor, active, hands-on opportunity. And as far as what experience is needed, I think the most important thing for us is just having a strong work ethic and some experience in livestock and in handling, operating machinery and equipment and things like that. Ideally, working with bison would be definitely a plus, but I think we're just looking for the person who's really willing to just jump in there, kind of get their hands dirty and just get the job done. And so, yeah, so as far as the housing goes, it's that's just another benefit on top of the really generous benefit package that Redco offers for all employees. So yeah, really kind of an exciting opportunity. Sorry, we're getting this word out a little bit late, but if you can give me a call on the number that's in the job posting on our Facebook page or on the sichangucorp.com website, we can make sure we can be a little bit flexible if you let us know you're going to apply early next week. But yeah, hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's awesome. Speaking of positions, one of my nephews came up to me and was like, "Hey, I heard you guys are launching a giant buffalo project, and my old teacher, Aaron Epps, is running your project." Like, I don't think so. Aaron, talk a little bit about what role have you been playing in the project to date? What's your involvement been?
Yeah, if I was the one handling the buffalo, I don't think this project would be as successful as we want it to be. But so yeah, so I came out, as you alluded to, came out to Rosebud as a teacher through Teach for America. I was teaching at St. Francis and ended up doing a fellowship out at Redco, and just was really inspired by the work that everybody is doing, not just at Redco, but Sichangu CDC, Tatanka Funds, and was able to kind of parlay that into this opportunity. Weezy said, "Hey, can you put together a proposal for me?" And I would just say, like, as a non-native person to be working on this project is a huge honor and very humbling to know that this isn't just a project that came about, on a whim. Like, this has been in the works for literally decades, and to be able to build on the work that other people have done is really just an honor, and to kind of learn under Wheezy's leadership and vision has been a huge growth opportunity for me. I kind of saw myself after teaching getting into a startup type situation, and that's basically exactly what this is a startup times 10. So as far as my role, it's been project manager, a little bit of everything. So we had an assessment come out where some folks came and took different measurements and figured out how many buffalo we could have out there. And so we took that information and created a business plan to make sure that we could make things make sense financially. And then also, kind of just, we have a website, rosebudbuffalo.org, helping put that together. And then, as Weezy mentioned, we've got all kinds of amazing partners on this, from World Wildlife to the U.S. Department of the Interior. So just kind of maintaining communication with that, and then, hiring people and raising money. So kind of, yeah, it's been a little bit of everything. There has definitely never been 2 days that were the same.
Did you always have a gray beard, or did that come out from working on this project?
I have to actually say, with all due respect to my former students, I think this has got a little more gray from teaching.
Cool.
But yeah, shout out to any former students or who are listening. Appreciate it. Miss you guys.
Awesome. Jillian, you're on mute over there.
Thank you. So speaking of students, we're in the second week of the new Lakota Immersion School. Are there any plans for the students to be able to visit the new buffalo range once it's up and running?
For sure. I think that's one of the cool things that we get to do is, taking a step back. So much of what our work and what we're trying to do and where we're trying to go with everything is, develop, and answer that question: what does it mean to be Lakota in the 22nd century? what does it mean to, we don't like just go live in teepees and, shoot bows and arrows anymore, but there's still an attitude that we have to have, an attitude that we have to carry, knowledge that we have to carry with us. And so how do we do that in a modern context? And how do we get away from colonized thinking? How do we get away from crab in the bucket thinking, and uplift people and support each other and cheer for one another and work towards not individual success, but success of others? And that's what we get to do with these two projects and some others. And if we can combine that work together, I think that's how we're helping to answer that question. So, when buffalo are threatened, what they do is they circle up, and they put the calves in the middle, and then behind that is, in that next row, you're gonna have the cows or the older cows, and then you're gonna have the cows after that, and then you're gonna have the bulls in that outer ring. And that's how they circle up, and they put their calves, they put their children first. And that's what we should be doing as Lakota, right? Like that's what we're supposed to be doing. So if we're taking our work and reinvesting into children, that's us living and emulating buffalo, our relatives, and that's us being true to who we are. So absolutely, 100%, we want to create opportunities for the kids to get out there. If you're going to learn about math, science, biology, geography, etc., do it hands-on. You can learn so much. You can learn about society and sociology and any subject, working with nature and with buffaloes, getting outdoor experiential learning, hands-on project learning. But this is not just for the kids at Wakanji. This is going to be, these opportunities are going to be open for any school, any kid who wants to participate in that. So, on a personal level, my interest, my first experience comes when I was a little boy. I was probably 8 years old, 8, 9, and I got to take a ride out into the tribe's buffalo pasture. And I remember that day. That day's like I remember it clear as day, sitting in the back of that pickup truck, driving around in the tribe's buffalo pasture and seeing them. And then as I got older, other folks, talked about the importance of, bringing buffalo back and doing it on a much larger scale that we've never seen before. So my hope, my dream is that there's going to be some young people that see this, that get to participate in this, and are inspired to do something even bigger than we're doing, to carry that dream and that vision forward, and to just continue to bring more and more buffalo back for our people over the next 175 years, over the next 107 generations.
That's awesome. For all you on, thank you for the comments, for the questions, for everything. If you have more thoughts or questions that you're wondering from Weezy or Aaron about Wolakota, the Buffalo Range, or any of the other projects, type a comment in. We'll jump in here and ask questions. One of the things I can't help but just think about the power of this project, and then kind of the timeline even of the immersion school opening up. Like, how do you see? It seems like there's a kind of energy and a forward movement happening right now, that there's just a lot of really cool and exciting projects happening. We talked a couple weeks back about the Food System Vision Prize. Like, there's some cool things happening on Rosebud right now. So Weezy, can you talk a little bit about that? As someone who's born and raised, grew up here, I mean, the community really well. Like, what is this time like for you? What are you seeing happening right now?
So I think, like, I think one of the things that's really important is, kind of like you said, like take a step back, think about the moment, and then think about our time in history, and think about, our story as Lakota and our story as Sichagu. Our name is Sicha and Ru, and what that means is burnt thigh. And the story that I was told is that at one point back in the day, our people got caught in a prairie fire, and we ran through that prairie fire, and our legs got burnt up to our thighs, and that's how we became known as burnt thigh. And so that's always like really stuck with me, that there was a hardship that we had to face as an entire tribe, as an entire people. And we looked at that hardship, and we didn't run from it. We faced it, and we ran through the hardship. And that's kind of where we're at now, right? Like COVID is tough. It's difficult. It sucks. Social distancing. We're doing social distancing Facebook Live stuff right now. Like, no one's in the same room. It's weird, if you go someplace and you see somebody and it's like you don't shake their hand, you got to give them a fist bump or an elbow bump. Things are different, and the world is different right now. You got big social unrest, and there's some bad things, but there's some really great things as well. People are calling for social justice. People are calling for social reform, and we're a part of that. We're a part of that movement. We're a part of that energy. And this is an opportunity and a moment and a time for us to say, you know what, we're not gonna be stuck in that colonized way of thinking anymore. We're not gonna be stuck in that negative way of thinking. We're going to focus on the positive. We're going to focus on what's possible. And, in some ways, like, dream our reality into existence. From a Lakota perspective, everything starts with vision. And what is our vision for our people? Where do we want to be? And then everyone start working towards that vision, a happy vision, a prosperous vision, one where everybody can live, one where everybody is safe, one where we have healthy relationships with not only us, but Wamaklanshka, all of the rest of creation. And then also, I think it's an opportunity for us to show the rest of the world and the rest of outside society what is possible. Lakota, Sichago always been in leadership positions in anything that affects Native country and Indian country. Our ancestors were at Wounded Knee. That was a tough thing. Our ancestors were at Battle of Little Bighorn. It was, some of our people, some of our relatives who helped found, National Congress of American Indians, National Indian Gaming Association. Everywhere that, we look at the AIM movement, it was our people that were helping to lead that on behalf of the rest of Indian country. And so these are opportunities. These are moments for us to continue that legacy of our ancestors and to do something to uplift everybody.
Awesome. Thank that. Appreciate that. That's cool. It's for myself too. It's one of those things that gets me excited to be where we're at, where we're here and working on what we're working on together. It's just a cool vision. Wanted to give Twilly Sherry Red Owl commented on here, had a cool comment. I think it echoed some of what you're saying, Weezy. She said, if we carefully observe buffalo, they demonstrate family values and child rearing practices that are Oyate adapted from the Pate Oyate. These are things that need to go back into raising our children. So I think that's awesome. Different kind of, a lot of people are on the same page. Like coming here, I've heard that from a lot of people, is that this is where these practices come from. And like I was saying, it feels really timely that all these things are kind of happening at the same time. There's a lot of energy kind of circling around here to do things simultaneously all at once. So.
Well, one thing that brings to mind a call we had earlier this week with the National Park Service. So we're going to be receiving our first buffalo this fall in October, with about 50 coming from Badlands and about 50 coming from Teddy Roosevelt National Park. And so we were on a call earlier this week, kind of figuring out like how many animals are going to be sent, how old are they going to be. And so typically when people start up a herd, you send in the youngest animals because those are easiest to easiest to handle, and then they associate that with home. But something that I think we're doing a little bit differently, and it touches on what Weezy was saying and what the comment was, is we also want to bring in some of those unchi buffaloes who can kind of give some of that social structure and kind of make sure that generational knowledge is passed down, and that the social side of things isn't lost. And so I think that, that's just something that we're doing that's a little different. I think there's a lot of things that we're doing that are different than the way other people run projects like this, but that's just one example.
One other thing I'd mention too, is one of the things that's really important, and this is spiritual guidance, is buffalo got to be treated like buffalo. You can't treat them like cows. Don't treat them like cows. They don't want to be treated like cows. That's their instructions to us. And that just means that you got to be respectful of their culture and how they do things. And when we harvest them, you have to pray. You have to do it in a respectful manner. It's got to be culturally appropriate. It's not one of those things where you run them into a feedlot, fatten them up, and then run them through a slaughterhouse. You don't do that. Doesn't mean that you don't harvest and eat. That's important. That's part of who we are. But it's all got to be done in a culturally appropriate, respectful way. And that's just kind of where we're one of the lines that we've always drawn in the sand, is we're not going to be treating these animals, like these buffalo, like cattle.
One question I do have is, so the Wolakota Buffalo Range is going to be huge, one of the biggest in the world. And has there been any concern of this being like an attraction? I mean, what if we get a lot of visitors from the public? How are the buffalo going to be protected? And you just mentioned, there was a video going around Facebook of this lady getting attacked, getting her pants pulled off by one of the buffalo. How will that be prevented, and how can you guys ensure that they will be safe from people outside of the reservation?
I think one thing that's really that's great about the site is that it's remote. It's hard to get to. So there's some kind of natural barriers there. But I think that access in and out of the property is difficult, and good fencing is important. And we want to be able to showcase this, but do it in a safe and respectful way. So one of the things we're definitely going to need to have is that range assistant. Whoever that individual is definitely going to need to live out there, so that we have somebody on the property at all times watching over everything. I think that's really important. And again, just making sure that people have common sense. They aren't pets where you can just like walk up to them and try to pet them. You got to maintain a safe distance and give them respect, right? Like again, they got their own way of being, and so you have to have that respect for them. So I think that's important. And then, but at the same time, like, you also want to create those opportunities for the community to have some engagement, to be able to see them and to develop that relationship. So, it's a balance. It's a fine line that has to be walked. But definitely one that needs to happen. Definitely one that needs to happen.
And to that point, the ecotourism side of things, as far as having a campground out there or doing tours, is something over the long term that we're considering. But like I mentioned before, we want to make sure we've got a solid foundation on the operation side of things, and so we're not trying to go off in a whole bunch of different directions and make it a big tourist destination before we've, like I said earlier, got those ducks in a row. And so I think probably that's something that people will wonder about is, when can I come out and can I stay out there? And the first time I was out at the property, I was just kind of like, blown away by the beauty of it. So it is something we want to be able to showcase, but at the present time, you know, we really got to be focusing on getting the foundation built. So stay tuned. It is something that's on our radar, but just not quite yet.
And I want to mention one other thing. You know, this year it's not really impacted, but in the future, one of our principles with this property is that hunting it will not be impacted. That was one of the first questions we got when we started talking about it, and you know, it's a great area for hunting elk and deer. It's actually, you know, when I got my elk hunting license, that's actually where you know, one of the uncles took me to get my elk. Great deer down there, good turkey hunting down there as well. And so, you know, we're going to make sure that we accommodate that. And, you know, we've actually talked to other large bison operations that have hunting, and, you know, making sure that during the appropriate times of the season that we're able to move the animals from one pasture to another to accommodate that. And, you know, we're going to make sure that those traditional hunting and gathering rights that every single one of us as Sichangu, that's not impacted. And actually, I think it's probably going to be strengthened. You know, if you look at the impact and how buffalo impact the ecosystem, you know, cattle can sometimes be detrimental to the local ecosystem. Elk and deer don't really like to be around them. But, you know, when you have buffalo, the rest of the environment thrives because they're a keystone species. So we actually think we're going to be able to strengthen the hunting and the gathering rights out there. So that's really important. And then also, like, I get back to the fence, man. Good fence. We're installing what's called an animal-friendly fence, which basically means that top wire is smooth, it's not barbed wire, and that bottom wire is smooth, it's not barbed wire. So some animals can jump over the fence, and some animals like to crawl under the fence. And if that's barbed wire, you can hurt some of the wildlife that are either jumping over or crawling under the fence. And so, you know, we're taking every effort to try to make sure that it's good, and not only, you know, trying not to harm, but actually strengthen, you know, the local ecosystem.
Must have read my mind, because that was my next question for you was the hunting down there. That's awesome. Cool to just think about, like, the thoughtfulness even of the design of fence, and just being intentional about what you want something to look like, and what you want to invite in, what you want to keep out. I think that's a cool just tie into to kind of, you know, being purposeful about how you set your structures up. It doesn't necessarily mean that things are going to be bad. You can design things in a way that, you know, help with the goal that you ultimately want. And one question I had too was, I hear a lot of people talk about, like, beefalo, and this idea of you know, like small buffaloes are not real buffalo. What is the Department of Interior kind of connection help or hurt, or like, what does that affect in terms of buffalo genetics, and how what type of buffalo will be down at the operation?
Yeah, so for sure. So first and foremost, there will be no beefalo. Beefalo is a mix, you know, straight mix between a buffalo and a cow. That's not a real natural animal. We're not gonna, we'll never have that. That being said, there are a lot of buffalo that within their genetics do have you know, cow DNA within their genetics, and that, I don't, you know, that just stems from, you know, some past historical interbreeding. So, you know, kind of look at it, you know, buffalo is a buffalo, and, you know, we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna treat buffalo like buffalo. You know, I'm some people might call me a beefalo. I'm mixed. You know, so, but buffalo's buffalo, and you know, I think one of the cool things about where we're going to be sourcing, the majority of our buffalo is from national parks, and those are big wild herds. Those are big herds. Those are big buffalo. And I think that, we might be able to have one of the most genetically diverse and genetically strong herds in the world, literally, because we're going to be able to source animals from all over the country. And I think that's a cool thing. People talk about Yellowstone buffalo all the time, and there's a process to that. There's a process to get some of those Yellowstone buffalo. It's a multi-year process because they have to go through a quarantine process and like extensive testing for brucellosis, etc. But the animals that we're going to be getting, are going to be strong, healthy. They get tested and treated for parasites and different kind of diseases that they can get. So it's going to be a really strong and diverse herd. And hopefully, that good genetics can be shared, here in our area as well. Like I think that we're going to have some good opportunities to do that as well.
Very cool. So we're winding down here. We only have about 9 minutes left on the show. Been an awesome conversation. Such an exciting project. Just so cool. Honestly, can't even. We have 7 Gen Live, thinking 7 generations on the show, but I can't even wait just to see in 5 years what this is going to look like. It's going to be super cool. Got to get to the real question here. For all you on the call, do you like the taste of buffalo? Do you eat buffalo? I know a lot of people, Lakota, not Lakota, doesn't matter. They're like, some people are, hell yeah, give me that all the time. That's all I want to eat. Some people are like, do not put that in my house even. I don't want to smell it. Where do you guys fall on that line?
Go ahead, Aaron.
Interesting you should mention that. I actually don't eat meat, and the reason I stopped eating meat was the environmental impact that it can have. And so I always wanted to work in a project that was like, I always thought it was going to be like green energy or something like that, but something that had an environmental impact. So things kind of come in full circle here, because the more I've learned about this project, the more I've found that actually, you can eat meat that's not only good for the environment, but like regenerative and healthy. So I'll have to get back to you when we have our first harvest.
Yeah, first meal. I love it.
Tatanka is the best, man. Our DNA is made for bison meat, for buffalo meat. That's in our DNA. So if we as Lakota, we have to have some buffalo and deer and elk in our diet. I think that's just important to us. It's good to me. Some raw buffalo kidney is good. Some raw buffalo liver. Buffalo, Tatanka Tchaniga is the best. Clean it good. It tastes good. But one thing I would say that if you're used to the taste of cattle, if you cook buffalo with some onion or some garlic and cook it slow, because it's a lean meat, it doesn't have a whole lot of fat in it, so you have to cook it slow. It can taste really good and almost not much of a difference from the cow we're used to getting at the store. So if you cook it right, it can be really good.
How about you, Jillian?
I was once on the same path as Aaron. I lasted about 4 months and I veered off that road, but I'd like to get back to that point one day. But my favorite is some good old buffalo cabbage soup. It's my favorite. I crave it all the time. I made sure I learned the good recipes, so that's definitely my favorite. But one last question I have for either of you that wants to answer. There are some things that we lack locally. I don't know if that's so much our values, but even our economy here. We're kind of lacking some things. But what can this new buffalo range bring to our people as far as strengthening them, whether that's economically or in their values?
Yeah. So from a, we've got a few minutes here, but I think from a value standpoint, it's showing that we can be true to who we are and do it in a way that's going to be successful from an economic perspective. And also, what we didn't really get to talk about too much is, all of this is being done through what's called a social impact investing framework that, blends, kind of your traditional kind of money making and kind of way of looking at things from a business perspective with a social value perspective, and finding a good balance between the two. And that's how we're able to do this project. And you don't have millions and millions of dollars to invest in startup projects. It's really difficult, but through social impact investing, you can do that. And what I think this is going to do, and what I think it's doing already, is it's helping to put Rosebud on the map, and showing that hey, we can do some good projects here, and it's already starting to open up other opportunities. There's a few jobs with the Buffalo Range, but one of the other things we're doing is looking at, and we're currently in the process of a culturally appropriate, humane meat processing facility feasibility study right now. And if we do something like that's going to create some jobs and more economic opportunity for people. It's also going to be a way to not only support this project, but all of the other local ranchers, because then they wouldn't be dependent on the outside market and the ups and downs. And I know a lot of ranchers and cattle producers right now are just getting killed because of what COVID's doing to the beef market. So this would help provide some stability for our local producers. And so we're looking forward to that. So to me, this is the kind of project that serves as a catalyst for everything else. Like I kind of said in the beginning, when the buffalo are thriving, we're going to be thriving too. So I think just in that food and kind of meat side of things, it's going to create some real good opportunities. And then also, like, what's better, than being able to go to the store and purchase something that was grown, harvested, or produced by our own people. There's nothing, there's no more power than that. So, and that's how we're going to turn dollars over locally within the economy. That's really the only way long term that we're going to get to the point where we're a healthy and thriving people again.
We started about 2 minutes late, so I'm squeezing in one last question here.
Can I jump on that a little bit more on Weezy's point too? Is with the local opportunities. I'm sure people are wondering, like, will we be able to come out and do a harvest and things like that? And that is something that will be available on a limited capacity to be able to have those ceremonial harvests. But also another thing that we're looking at is ways to be able to repurpose or provide hides or skulls or different objects to local artists as well, because those can be pretty expensive if you're going up to buy a hide in Rapid City or whatever. So I think that's another aspect too, to try to provide opportunities locally. And then one other thing, this will be my challenge. I always thought, like, why the heck isn't there a native themed, like, or like a native inspired restaurant, like with buffalo and choke cherries and things like that? So somebody out there listening, start up a restaurant. Come hit us up. We've got buffalo to provide you with, and let's get this thing going.
There you go. Oh, they throw in the gauntlet. I'm sure Matt's listening and he's ready to go.
Yeah.
Hey, a last question I had. Somebody commented when we were asking about, do you like the taste of buffalo? Carl Dean, Bodine, thanks for watching. Good to hear from you. He said, if I could afford it, it would be all I would feed my family. Talk about that a little bit. Like, how do you guys see this, for your everyday tribal member? Like, what's the impact going to be for them? Like, how is this going to help people? Like, you see it with farmers markets, with all these fancy food movements. It ends up becoming this really privileged kind of thing. If you go up to Rapid City to a co-op for buffalo, I mean, you're looking at $14 a pound. That's wild. Talk about that a little bit. How is this project going to have an impact there?
So two things. One, if we can make money elsewhere, then that means we can kind of subsidize the local availability of meat. And then, another thing that we're working on right now is we're running the numbers and we're putting a model together where a certain percentage of this herd can actually be owned either by an individual tribal member or like a community organization, like a school, and be able to pay for itself on a it's called a herd sharecropping kind of methodology. And so we're developing that right now, trying to figure out like what the numbers are. And so, what happens if our CDFI gives a family a loan, and with that loan, they're able to purchase some, small share of the herd. And then over the years, we sharecrop it, and then those animals can then be purchased from that family. And then any new animals that family would then own, and they'd be able to harvest one buffalo a year. There's ways in which we can kind of work out the economics of that. It's going to take a little while, and we're going to have to figure out the funding and where that comes from. But, I think people hit it right on the head. If all we're doing is we have a cool herd and, we're selling meat to rich people in Minneapolis or wherever, that really don't do much good for us. We have to figure out a way to be able to sell that meat at an affordable rate here so that everyone can afford it. And same thing, if we can do that with buffalo here, then we can do that with cattle here too. So that's definitely one of the goals.
One last question from Jenny. She posted on the Facebook Live. She said, many people rely on EBT. Would they be able to use their benefits for payment?
If we get to the point where on the meat processing side of things, if we have a retail side, then yeah, and just shout out to the food sovereignty people. People might not know, but Rosebud and the food sovereignty group had you can go use EBT to buy fresh fruits and vegetables that are locally grown, and we were actually the first group in South Dakota to do that. One of the first in the nation, actually. So if we get to that point where we can do the retail side of things, then absolutely 100% we're going to do that. We've already done it once, so hopefully down the road we'll be able to do it again.
I know we're a little over time, but I wanted to mention too, I realized we never kind of mentioned the timeline of things, just so people kind of setting expectations. We are looking at about a 5-year buildup of the herd. So a lot of these things, when we're talking 1,500 animals, that's still about 5 years out from now. So we will, try to ramp things up as far as the community opportunities and things like that, but before then. But just for the sustainability of the herd and the land, we can't just flip the switch and have everything available now. I wish we could, especially with COVID right now, and things are more expensive than they were before. But yeah, we're doing everything we can.
All right, everyone. Well, we're going to end that there. I wish we didn't have to. Discussion was going really well, even for myself. I learned so much today. Thank you both, Wheezy and Aaron, for being here today. Everybody who's watching live on Facebook, don't forget, we do the show 7 Gen Live every Friday at 1 p.m. And we'd love for you guys to host a watch party if you can. We'd also love for you to share this video. The more viewers, the more people who know about this, the better for everyone. It's really cool to see that people are getting really excited about this. I think for some people, this is the first time they're even hearing about it. So this is all really great things happening, but we're gonna end the show here. So thank you everyone so much for being here today. Wheezy and Aaron, do you guys have any last words that you would like to share with those watching?
Thank you, Wopila. And when people have questions, like let us know. If you have ideas, thoughts, let us know. The more people that have ideas and input, the better. So thank you.
And the best way to do that, I would say, is rosebudbuffalo.org. If you go there, that's an overview of the project, and you can read a little bit more about things we didn't get into yet today. And then there's a contact us form, and those notes will go to Weezy and myself, and we'll do the best we can to get back to you as soon as possible. So yeah, rosebudbuffalo.org.
Awesome. And thank you everyone who commented and shared their thoughts and had a question. I'm sure a lot of other people had the same question. So thanks for standing up and putting yourself out there. All right, guys, we're going to end the show now. We'll talk to you next Friday.
Awesome.
Doksha.
Old Shaw.